Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream for the University of Lincoln's Film, Media, and Journalism program. My name is Hannah Spalding. I'm a lecturer here, predominantly in television studies, but I teach across multiple programs in the school. We're just really excited to have you joining us here. We're going to be talking about the different courses that we have, the different things that people like about Lincoln. We have some really great students and staff here to kind of walk you through and answer any questions you might have. But the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to bounce it over to the lovely panel of people with me today to introduce themselves. So first, I would like Chris to introduce himself. Chris, if you could take it away.
Hi there, I'm Chris, and I'm a first-year student studying sports journalism.
Great. And now Phillip and Alana.
Hello there, I'm Philip. I'm the, the program leader in film production.
And I'm Alana, a first-year film production student.
Thank you. And now Samantha. Oh, I think you're still muted, Samantha. We'll skip over you, and once you unmute yourself, then we can move back to you. So Nancy, could you introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm a third-year media production student.
Thanks. All right, Jessie.
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm a second-year journalism student.
Perfect. Trinity.
Hi, I'm Trinity. I'm a third-year animation student.
And Neil.
Hello, everybody. I'm Neil Jackson. I'm a senior lecturer and the program leader in film and television studies.
Perfect. Perfect. We are also joined by Stephen, I'll get him to introduce himself in a minute. We had a student from Sound and Music Production, but unfortunately their internet died. So Stephen has stepped up in the last minute to take their place. So Stephen, pass it to you.
That's all right, just like Batman. Hi everyone, my name's Stephen. I'm a senior lecturer and program leader for the Sound and Music Production degree.
And it seems like Samantha might have had some technical difficulties, but hopefully we'll get her back on here presently to introduce herself. I can see her joining now. Hi, Samantha. Can you introduce yourself? Oh, well, when she comes back on, we can hopefully bring her in to join the conversation. So the first question I have for all of you, but particularly for the students today, is what do you enjoy most about your course, your programs? So I'm going to start us off with Chris again.
Yeah, so it's really hard to kind of pinpoint one specific thing that I really enjoy, but if I had to, I'd probably say kind of the varied nature of the course. So there's like a really good blend of kind of theory modules, but also kind of the practical ones where you can hone your skills and kind of develop them. So it's really good. And there's also great opportunities with the sports journalism course to get involved in the student media, and also there's opportunities with Lincoln City and other sports teams and clubs around the surrounding area.
Wonderful. Alana, what do you enjoy most about your program?
I would say that my favorite thing about the program is the amount of resources we have. We'll get onto that later, but on this course there's so many pieces of equipment that I wouldn't have access to if I was at home, and I think that definitely gives me an opportunity to be creative and create things that I wouldn't have the capacity to do on my own.
Wonderful. How about you, Trinity? I think you're muted, Trinity.
I realised, sorry. There are definitely a lot of different things that I enjoy about this course. I really like using the industry standard software, which I definitely wouldn't be able to get just on my own. I think I've learned a lot of stuff that if I weren't here, I'd never have the chance to know it like at all. It's also really nice having a studio just at uni, like on campus, that I can access pretty much whenever I want.
That's great. Yeah, those resources I think are very key here, and we'll definitely be exploring that soon. Nancy, can you talk us through media production?
Yeah, so I think for me it would be like the fact that you get to try out everything on the course, and like you get to work out what your like passion is from like an early on like part on the actual like uni degree, and also you get like proper creative freedom throughout it. So like the tutors are really good at understanding like what you're wanting to do and talking you through how to get there and like how to develop your skills. And yeah, the creativity and like all of the step-by-step tutorials, and like you go into it not knowing that much, or for me anyway, and then you like leave it like, not to say I'm an expert or anything, but you leave it knowing exactly what to do and when. So
yeah, that's really great. I know media production in particular has a lot of opportunities for sort of trying out the different components of the course and sort of figuring out what your passion is. Jessie, can you speak to us about journalism?
I just really like how creative you get to be on the course, and how we get to learn about journalism in all different forms, like broadcast and radio and TV and print as well. And we get a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. And also I think work experience is a big element of it. We get lots of chances to do work experience in lots of different places, which I think is great.
Wonderful. Obviously, Neil, you're not a student, but could you tell us a little bit more about film and television studies? I think you're muted. Sorry, Neil, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think principally what the students get out of the program in film and television studies is the diverse range of cinema and television that they are introduced to. They may come into the program having a basic knowledge of a certain type of film, a certain type of television program or culture, but once they've experienced the first year and then they go into the second and third years, they will realize that there's a whole world of film and television out there that they possibly hadn't even thought of before. So it's introducing the students to those different elements of the area of the discipline itself, which I find really rewarding, and I know my colleagues do. And I think the students come out the other end of the program having this much greater and diverse range of knowledge about the subject area.
Wonderful. And Stephen, can you talk us through sound and music production?
Yeah, sure. So I think for us, the main thing for our students is that they attain a sort of a solid foundation of audio production as it applies to music, post-production, which is film and TV, and radio. So they get a really good sort of balance of how these disciplines work, how they work together, and just audio as a whole.
Wonderful. And I saw Samantha joined us for a bit. Hopefully she'll be back, but we'll see. But we're going to move on to my second question. So what resources are there for your courses? This is something that obviously has come up already, but let's reverse the order a little bit here. Let's start with Stephen and move upwards, and I'll call you out, so don't worry.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Resources wise, it's pretty good in the sound and music production program. We use industry standard audio software. We've also got recording studios that have large format consoles that follow industry standard workflows. So yeah, the students have access to Pro Tools, which is the industry standard software, away from campus as well. So we give a copy of Pro Tools to each of our students for the duration of the course. So yeah, they're using the latest gear that they can.
Wonderful. Neil.
Yeah, I mean, on the film and television program itself, we're we're thinking and we're talking, we're reading about film. We're not involved in the practical creation of film. So there's a very large resource in the library itself. All kinds of books and journals and magazines are stored in the library. We have a fantastic screening facility with a 4K projector, which is bookable by students, and students do use that to watch films in their own time. We also use it for educational purposes as well, of course, and students also use it to screen their own work as well. So it's great for them to see their work projected. And this is all in addition to the usual line of online resources that are available as well, often via the library. Lots of books are available as ebooks, and there's lots of online access for materials in that regard as well.
Great. Yeah. We're going to just jump to Sam because I think Sam can manage to be added. So Sam, if you wouldn't mind, just do 2 questions in one. Introduce yourselves, tell us what you enjoy most about your program, and also the kinds of resources that you have available in media studies.
Okay, can everyone hear me to start off with?
Yes.
Because I'm on internet issues. So I'm Sam. I'm from the Media Studies program, and I'm on my 3rd year. The thing I enjoy most about the program is probably the different sort of aspects we get involved in. So being the media studies, we do a lot of like literature and like lectures and essays and like do presentations and things like this. But then we get the other side where we get the full Adobe package, and we get to make our own projects with workshops and things like this to complete as well. And then for resources, we were probably the same as other people, where we've got the media loans, where you can get like your DSLR cameras out if you need one, or you could have like recording things that you can get from there as well. And then, like I said, you get the whole Adobe package included with the course. So you can literally have a go at anything Adobe.
That's really great. And I'm so glad you were able to join us. Just before we hop over to Trinity, I just want to tell anyone, watching, please put any comments or questions that you might have in the comments field in the chat so that we'll be able to answer them all together. So you can do that at any point. Trinity, if you could tell us about the resources available on your course, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, of course. You've got quite a bit available to you. It definitely depends on you have everything available to you, but what you mostly use depends on if you take the 3D or 2D route. For 2D students, you will be using TV Paint. You get the Adobe Creative Suite. I think you also have the display tablets just in studio, which you can use whenever you want. For 3D students, we have access to Autodesk programs such as Maya and Mudbox. And also we can just use the Adobe Creative Suite whenever we want as well. We have 2 studios available. One is just filled with Macs and the other is filled with just regular PCs. So if you're a bit picky, then you can just pick and choose whichever one you want to go to.
That's great. Thank you. Nancy.
Yeah, so similarly, we've got like a either digital media route or a studio route. So in studio, there's a big TV studio, a small TV studio, which have like amazing like cameras. And then there's a load of radio studios as well. And it also, you get access to Siren Radio, and you can do some like part-time work there. We also have all the access to like Adobe and all of the editing suites. And yeah, it's good.
Wonderful. And yeah, I will just say for anyone not listening locally, Siren Radio is an actual working radio station in the community. So our students are able to actually go on air and have shows and are really involved in the actual sort of local radio community, which is pretty great. Jessie, do you want to continue us with journalism?
Yeah, so it's sort of a similar thing, really. We've got all of the Adobe software and all the editing things that we need to do audio and video editing. And we've got a lot of studios as well that we get full access to, and you can use it for your own stuff as well. So like podcasting, if you wanted to start a podcast, you can go in there in one of the studios and do that. And then we've got like a fully equipped TV studio with all posh cameras and all lights, camera, action and everything, which is really good and useful too.
Wonderful. Alana and Phillip.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, the resources on my course is what I love about it the most. We have media loans, so that's basically like a media loan system where we can book out pretty much everything you can imagine that you'd need to make your own film or documentary, or you can just use it for your own purposes too. So we've got cameras and microphones and yeah. Also, if you choose to do like more advanced cinematography, you can also use Arri Alexa. We have we have a lot of equipment.
Maybe I'd just add that we've also got New Media Links, which is an in-house agency, and that develops kind of live brief projects with clients during students' time studying here, which is a brilliant local resource that also hooks us into kind of community and third sector-based partnership work, and that students benefit from quite a lot. Maybe I could also just add that, you know, as well as the cameras, we have things like, there's a lot of very specialist equipment like prime lens kits, dollies, you know, jibs, cranes. So you can really specifically learn about specialisms such as develop your cinematography in a studio environment, etc., etc.
Great. Yeah, there's so many resources available for making films. There's a Foley room where people can actually make all of the sound effects in the sound theaters, which is my personal favorite room in the department. It's great. It has so many things. And hopefully maybe some of you have seen it on an open day or an offer holder day. Chris, do you want to take us away with sports journalism?
Yeah, so it's very similar to what's already been alluded to. We've got the journalism style newsrooms. I think there's 7 of them all together. And then we've got the radio and TV studios that are fully equipped with the specialist camera equipment, etc. And then, as previously mentioned, there's the access to media loans, where you can like hire out specialist cameras, recording equipment, and yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I really like the journalism newsroom is a really great space. It really feels, when you walk inside, you really feel like you're in a newsroom. It's very exciting. So if I'm just going to see if we have any questions, but don't be shy. Give them to us. We're more than happy to answer them. So just put them in the comments when you have a minute. Now we're going to move on to kind of more questions about the experience at university. So we're going to do, and specifically the student experience. So my question is, how have you found making friends at university? Trinity, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, obviously I've been here for 3 years. I've made a lot of friends here. Back when I started in first year, it was like peak COVID time, so it was a little bit different at the time. Most of the like situation back then was just chatting to people like online in group chats and stuff. And I think because we're all introverted artists naturally, I think that worked a lot. And I think that even now, like that is kind of how friends are still kind of made on a lot of courses like this. But definitely, like even in like the studio and stuff like that, people just chat and get along, and there's really just no problem with just making friends.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah, I think definitely the first few years can be a bit, the first like few weeks can be a bit tricky, but I've always noticed so many like really close knit groups of students going and working on projects together, which I really like. Chris, would you like to answer that question? How do you find making friends at the university?
Yeah, so as a first year, I had that experience not too long ago. So yeah, it's a bit daunting, obviously, kind of entering a new environment with new people. But I think one of the best ways I'd suggest to like kind of make friends is join societies and like join different clubs, because you'll find people with like similar interests and kind of like-minded people. And from there, like I found that kind of friendships kind of forge naturally. People gravitate towards you when you're just being you, really. So yeah, it's so many people on campus, obviously so many people at the university, that it's almost certain that you're bound to find people who have those like similar hobbies and interests. So yeah, just put yourself out there, really. That's the main thing.
Great, thank you. Nancy, do you want to also talk about the experience of making friends at university?
Yeah, so I was similar, and because I'm third year, we started during COVID. But when you actually go into the course and you're actually in the building, like say for us being in the studios, you kind of all form like a close-knit group anyway. And because you're working together, you're around people all the time, and you like around people with similar interests to you. And it's I think most people do find it quite easy to all come together and like bond over those passions that you do have. So yeah.
Wonderful. Jessie, do you want to answer that question as well? Tell us a little bit about your experience making friends at university.
Yeah, so obviously I'm on the journalism course, and everybody as a journalist has to interview people. So everyone was very, very chatty. So it's quite easy to get to know people quickly. And we do quite a lot of assessments and activities where we have to like discuss things with each other, and you just end up chatting about what's going on and what's happening with your life. And yeah, I just think it's a really friendly community. But like Chris said, it's just good to sort of put yourself out there. I think that's the best advice.
Great. And Samantha, do you want to go next in on that question?
Yeah, so I again had the same problem as COVID was the first year. But I seem to remember we did some sort of like welcome week back in August, and everyone got like released everyone's names, and we all went into like a Snapchat group, which we've been in since first year. And we literally just put anything in there if there's like a problem, or if someone wants to like invite everyone out on a night out. We tend to just use that chat for everything and anything, to ask everyone questions and like stay in community there. And then of course you've got all your societies. There's plenty of societies that you can have a look through.
That's great. Yeah, extracurricular activities, societies, these are such an important resource, right? That'll allow you to make connections beyond your course as well as within your course. Alana, do you want to speak to making friends at university and your experience with that?
Yeah, well, film production is a really collaborative course, trying to mimic what it's like to work with other people in actual film industry. So we get put into groups, and we have to make groups, and I've made quite a few friends on my course through that, and I definitely would back up what other people have been saying. Whereas even if you're quite an introverted person, naturally, you don't have to worry about making friends, because it will just happen naturally. Yeah.
Great. We have we have two questions from the group. We're going to start with the first one that came through, which is, with film production, do you work with Adobe? So Alana, Philip, I feel like you're the ones to bounce that to.
Yes, students work with Adobe Creative Suite as on all of the programs, really. But we also work with Avid software for editing, and Pro Tools software for sound design and mixing. So you can, you can extend, or you can kind of work with things that maybe you're more familiar with.
Yeah, you have access to that at home as well. Like you don't have to come in to use that. You can download it on your own devices.
That's great. It's nice to, I think, have that mix of both having the in studio or in tools and then be able to bring them home with you as well. We have another question. that I have applied for both film production as well as film and television studies, but I'm unsure which one to choose. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough decision, and I think quite a few of our students struggle with that. So what we're going to do, I think, is tell you a little bit more about each program, and if you have any follow-up questions, you can always ask us as well, but to try to clarify that for you a bit.
Neil, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Well, I'll explain what it is we do on film and television studies, and then Philip can tell you about film production. On film and television studies, I can't even say it. We're more interested principally in discussing the critical, historical, cultural, social approaches to the study of film and television. So it's not so much a practical course. There is a creative element to the program in the sense that there are several screenwriting modules that you can take, and that is embedded from the first year. And there is also a bit of production work as well in the first year. But yeah, we're not a production course. The skills that you develop within the program are still transferable into all kinds of industries, but we're not so specifically geared towards media and film industries as the film production course and other production courses at the university are concerned. Yeah, so we approach film from a variety of perspectives. Staff have different specialisms which they bring to bear upon the discipline itself. So it's, if you're interested in discussing film, writing about film and television, if you're interested in bringing a critical perspective to those subject areas, then this is the program for you. Over to you, Philip.
Yeah, and by way of contrast, film production is primarily a kind of thinking through making program. You'll develop a kind of portfolio of films that you've been involved in. You'll explore the various capacities that you can be involved in: directing, producing, cinematographer, sound design, production design, editing, etc., etc. And you'll also explore genre. So you'll explore types of filmmaking. That's writing for screen, fiction on screen, documentary work. We do third sector work where you're situating your film externally. And so a real kind of exploration of the ways and means of actually producing film work. And that is supported with theoretical work. So we share modules with other programs, and we have course-specific modules that inform your making. So that's film theory, that's the development of a thesis in your final year project. And then there's also the employability element, because we're very big on employability in film production. So employability is sort of embedded throughout the 3 years of studies. You can take work placement modules in second year. You take specialist modules in things where you've identified your strengths. That might be directing, for example. So you'll work on directing actors in a studio environment and work with drama students to achieve that, etc., etc.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and as somebody who also teaches quite a bit on film and television studies, I will also say that, if you find that your real passion, right, is making films, film production is probably the program for you. If you find that your passion is thinking about writing about films, and you think you might be interested in going into the film industry, but maybe you don't necessarily want to make films. Maybe you want to work, I don't know, in distribution or in exhibition, or maybe you want to do something else, work in education, or just really like cinema or television, that might be the course for you. So, but we do have overlap, and, we do have our academic staff often teach on both programs. So there is, it is quite collaborative to a certain extent as well. We have another question, which is for journalism. So in the journalism degree, how much of the course is spent on theory versus sort of the practical elements? I think we'll begin with Jessie, and then I'll move on to Chris. You can speak about it from the sports journalism perspective. So Jessie, do you want to start us off?
Well, I think it's always encouraged when we do a lot of projects. So when we write features and stuff like that, obviously you could class that as theory, but practical elements sort of get involved with that as well, because obviously you have to go out and interview people. And then we have news days as well, where we have a whole day just going out, interviewing people, finding stories, coming back, putting the stories together. So it's really hands-on. And in second year especially, we've had a lot more practical elements. So like we're putting together a news bulletin, we put together a radio bulletin, we've been using the studio, going out with the cameras, things like that. But then also there's another side to journalism as well, which is also really important. So we learn about media law and ethics and things like that. And I will say there's you have to write essays and occasionally, but I would say that it's a 70-30 basis. Sorry, I don't know if Chris agrees, but I feel like a lot of practical elements are incorporated into most aspects of our course.
All right, Chris, want to speak about it from this perspective of sports journalism?
Yeah, so it's very similar to journalism, as Jesse said. So yeah, there is a few kind of theory modules, but within that, there's a lot of kind of practical aspects incorporated. So I'm just thinking of module now. So there's a journalism production module in the first year where you kind of put out of your comfort zone almost. You're going to interview people, you're producing content for radio, for TV, etc. So yeah, there's like I mentioned earlier, I think there's quite a good blend of theory and practical. But yeah, like Jesse said, I think mainly practical, that 70-30 balance really in sports journalism.
Great, thank you. I think we don't have any more questions right this moment, but of course, please feel free to add them to the comments. Oh, we do actually. Never mind. One has come in. So, when working with groups in film productions, what happens if you don't get on with the people in your group? If you're put with them together randomly. I think this is definitely will start us out with film production, but I think the question of group work is something that probably a lot of our panelists will be able to discuss.
Okay, yeah, so this definitely can be something to worry about, but okay, not something to worry about, something that people worry about, but we have peer reviews after every project. So if you don't get along with your group and you feel like your work reflects that, you can discuss your group work in your peer review, which it informs your lecturers or the people marking your work on things. It doesn't necessarily determine grades, but it can inform how they will mark you and their understanding of how it went. Not only that, if things go horribly wrong, email your lecturer. I'm sure they'll understand. But it does also kind of mimic the way that in the industry you don't always get to choose who you work with. So it's important to try and be civil with everyone, even if you don't really agree with their views and things.
Yeah, I'd just add that film is inherently a collaborative activity. So that thing of being entering the teamwork and the group environment is so crucial. And actually some of the projects you are put into groups, but when the chips are down in third year for your graduation projects and you're making your final films that are seen in a wonderful public cinema environment, you choose the people that you work with. So it's a mixed economy, and the expectation is that you try a bit of everything.
Great. Is there anyone else who would like to join and answer the question? I think, yeah, maybe Samantha, I think you mentioned that you could answer the question.
So I'll answer it for media studies. So in media studies, we do some collaborative work. I remember doing some in first year, some in second year, and some in third year. But for our course, you choose who you work with. So ours is literally you can choose who you want to go with. And you basically would choose maybe someone you're closer to, or sometimes it's good to link up skills. So if someone is better at editing than you, they might be the better person to go with instead of just being a friend.
Great, thank you. Yes, I think that sort of that cross skills group work dynamics, I think, can be really important. Not to put you on the spot, Nancy, but can you speak to that in terms of media production? Because I know this is something that you guys do quite a bit in media production.
Yeah, I think the main thing you've got to remember is that the tutors are all very understanding. So if there are any issues and you go to them, they will help you like figure it out and like deal with it as it comes. And also in media production, you do choose most of the time like the groups that you're working with. So if you have worked with someone before and it's like not gone great, then you get to choose, and you don't like just wouldn't choose to work with them again. And to be fair, most people do like find the groups that they know that they like to work with and just carry on working with them throughout. So it's quite like easy to get over those like issues.
Great. And I think Stephen can speak to it also from the sound and music studies perspective or production perspective.
Yeah, so sound and music's very similar to media in the fact that, you know, groups come together for a project, generally could be making a record and then disband at the end of it. So we try and mimic industry, I guess, with our group work. So first year is generally we place people in groups, which happens in industry, but then as the skills develop and the projects, you start to get like a portfolio of projects. Then towards second and third year, you're generally choosing your own group. So you get sort of a bit of a mix of both worlds.
Great. Thank you all for jumping in there. We have, what are the international opportunities? I can jump us off there in terms of some of the structural elements that are, and perhaps program leaders can jump in as well, or if anyone has done an international opportunity, you can also jump in as well. But in the second year, students throughout the school are given the opportunity, if they choose, to do a semester studying somewhere else. They have connections with universities sort of in Europe, but also in North America as well. And students are able to sort of go and spend a semester in a different institution, learning with a different academic system, taking modules, and then are able to then come back after their study abroad semester and join back in to the third year with the rest of their classmates. If anyone has either firsthand experience of this or wants to talk about it from the perspective of a program leader, please feel free.
I know that we have, second year students going to a university, and I think in North Carolina, in semester A of their second year. But we also do projects. We send, we've got an alumni student actually going to China to develop a documentary project in conjunction with other international students from elsewhere. And that's a program we've worked on across many years. So there are also kind of distinct one-off projects that can come up that can involve international travel and filmmaking.
Does anyone else want to hop on here? Stephen, perfect.
So we did, again, COVID sort of put the sort of kosher on all of this sort of stuff, sort of shut all this down. So we are in the process of reopening it up. I know that I know that in 2020, just before COVID hit, we did have some students over in North America from the music and sound production degree for a semester, and they had a great time. It works on the flip side as well. So for the last semester, I've actually had a student in music mixing and mastering from the US, and it's just been a great experience for our students as well. So it's important to know that it happens both ways. So, you know, you get the opportunity to go over and work internationally, study internationally, but also you get to work with students that we're hosting. So yeah, it's really good.
Wonderful. I think we have another question from the chat. How do the drama students work with film production students? Do they get given a brief or something on your project ideas to work with you guys? Sorry, I was paraphrasing from different voices there, but hopefully you got the gist there. Alana, Phillip, if you want to start. begin?
Maybe I'll start that one. It's at the moment it's extracurricular. So what that means is that our students tend to they kind of more or less advertise a project they're working on and can invite drama students to get involved in an auditioning, casting call process, rehearsals, on screen, directing, acting, relationship. And then in the directing actors second year module, we also developed a role of actors from a number of sources in terms of how you block a scene and kind of develop screen presence. And that includes the introduction of professional actors that we bring in. And we also bring in professional actors now while we're beginning for read-throughs for script writing students. So getting their writing off the page in that respect.
Great. One thing I also know, this is sort of me riffing on the question just from students I've talked to, is that you guys also work with, you don't just work with drama students and actors. You also, I know, have collaborated with dance students, right? For a project. I don't know if you guys want to speak more about that. One of my students talked to me about the project at length, which was sounded really exciting.
Yeah, we've been we've got one of our specialist cinematographers, Zeta Spiraki, has been working with dance students on a kind of dance for screen project very recently, and we're extending that whereby we're going to get our first year students involved in documenting the devising process both for drama productions and dance productions in the Lincoln Arts Centre, which is actually on campus here. So, that relationship between live performance and events and developing film work is something that we're really actively trying to extend.
Great. Well, I think we might have a small break in the comments. Obviously, keep them coming. But I am just going to take the opportunity to ask the students a little bit more about Lincoln. So what do you love about Lincoln? Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so in terms of what I really enjoy, probably one of the main things is I love going for walks. So I love going for walks around on the high street, and at weekends especially, there's a really friendly atmosphere, and there's just so many things to do. I mean, it's such a traditional city, Lincoln, with the cathedral, the castle. There's really a range of activities and things. You're never going to get bored. So yeah, I think just walking around the city simply and just taking it all in is something that I really enjoy.
Wonderful. And Jesse, do you want to jump in here? Oh, I think Jesse disappeared. So Alana, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so I would say that something I've definitely neglected in my first year up until this point is Lincoln's got such rich history, and you can see that just going on walks. I was going to speak about going on walks too. Literally just walking through the city, one thing I would say is if you just look up, the architecture is so inspiring. I think it's definitely an inspiring city, which you might not really think about upon first glance, but if you look a bit deeper into it, it's really inspiring city. Yeah.
That's great. Trinity, do you want to answer that question? What do you love about Lincoln?
Yep. I think on the kind of the other end of the spectrum, I really like that everything is very compact. I think I live on kind of outskirts of the city center, and if I need to go anywhere, I can get there by walking for 15 or 20 minutes, and it's just really easy. And I think there's just a lot to do around the place. Just clubs, or I go to picnics with friends all the time, and just shopping as well. There's just so much to do just in a really small area.
Great. Yes, it is a really walkable city, which is really nice. Nancy, do you want to talk about Lincoln?
Yeah, I'd say because the university is kind of at the center of Lincoln, it's quite a student oriented place. So it feels very safe when you're walking around. You're always around people who And there's a lot of like things to do. Like, so I think at the end of every month there's stuff like a makers market up by the cathedral, and it's just like there's opportunities to like either go out for drinks or to just have like a coffee or something, but there's always something that you can be doing with like friends or on your own. It just feels really safe, and it's just like a nice place to be in, really.
Wonderful. Samantha, do you want to also tell us what you appreciate about Lincoln?
So the things that I like about Lincoln is all the activities you can get involved with. So you've got things from bowling to crazy golf. I believe there's at least 2 crazy golfs over here. We've got a cinema, which is Odeon, and we have virtual golf, which is next door to the cinema. You've also got Play Zone that does like a student night on a Tuesday, if I'm right. But then, of course, you've got all the bars and clubs, and because like there's a uni here, everyone seems to offer student discount everywhere. So you can literally go out for a night out, even if you don't have loads of money.
That's great. Affordability does definitely seem like a good perk about Lincoln. Definitely. If we don't have any more questions from the audience, I'm going to sort of ask our wrap-up question. But obviously, if you have more questions, bring them in the comments. Would you recommend your course and why? Chris, do you want to start us off?
I would 100% recommend the sports journalism degree. It's a great way to develop and hone your journalistic skills in an array of different formats. I mean, you can tailor it to your interest, whether that be like broadcast, print, TV, what have you. There's plenty of opportunities to kind of get involved and to hone your skills. And then there's also the perks of you get to speak and like meet some really amazing and interesting people and like make connections. And specifically to sport, you can build like contacts with people in the sporting industry, which is really quite rewarding.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Phillip and Alana, what would you recommend about your course and why? Or would you recommend your course and why?
Yeah, I would. I would say that being on this course is going to leave me with so many more opportunities that I just wouldn't have had access to if I wasn't on doing a film production course. And another perk of it is that I've met other students who in the future I'm able to pull skills into my own projects and kind of have like some networking already done. And obviously I'm only my first year, so I'm sure there'll be way more opportunities in the future. Yeah.
Great. Neil, what can you tell us about film and television?
Yeah, well, what I would say was if you have a passion for the subject area, then that passion is going to be returned and reciprocated by the staff that you encounter. I love talking, teaching, writing about film, and I really love to hear the ideas and the insights of a whole new generation of people who are in many ways introducing me to many aspects of modern film and television culture. So it's that it's that sense of not only me teaching the students, but also me kind of learning from the students as well. So it's kind of a reciprocal arrangement whereby when you study on this course, we're discovering things together. And I think that is very much part of the kind of the enriching process that occurs on this program. Yeah, so I would emphasize the passion for the subject area that myself and my colleagues hold, and hopefully that will correspond with your own if you chose the film and television program.
Great. Trinity, would you choose animation and why?
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend the course. I think you get like such great experiences just being here, both like academically and socially. You meet people who are definitely just gonna like stay with you for like years and years beyond university, and you're just making great connections for just the rest of your life. And it's definitely it's setting you up to do like really good things in the industry.
Wonderful. Nancy, media production.
Yeah, I'd definitely recommend the course. I mean, the opportunities that you get. So, like in third year, we've been working with clients and stuff. You actually get to experience what it would be like being in the industry, and like the resources are incredible. And like all of the tutors are just so friendly, and like they want you to do well, and they like help you develop not only like in terms of like your academic personality, but also personally they want to like help you better yourself. So yeah.
Wonderful. Stephen, sound and music production.
I'm obviously going to be a little bit biased here, but yeah, I think our program's great and it's getting better. It's getting stronger. One of the things I really like about a program, it's got a nice mix of theory and practical. I teach mainly practical modules. So students, for example, learn, how to make audio productions, not just how to use the equipment, but why they're using it that way, which I think is great. We have really strong connections with industry, which is fantastic. Just mentioning before about what's great about Lincoln. Another thing that's great about Lincoln is London is only 2 hours away on a train. And we recently went to Abbey Road Studios, which is now an annual 2-day workshop where we go down with our music performance students and, we record and mix in Abbey Road Studio. So it's a fantastic opportunity for our students to, get practical experience in arguably the most famous recording studio in the world. Other things that we do as well, which I think is great, is that students get the opportunity as well for paid experience at a venue on campus called the Engine Shed. We've got about 4 or 5 or 6, I think, of our students working there at the moment. So they're getting paid to do live sound, which is fantastic. We're also teaching AI in music mastering, which is great, which is sort of a new development. So we're using a program called Isotope and looking into the whole AI thing, which is great. And just that, our staff are really passionate and they're connected with industry. So basically, as soon as students rock up on their first day, because we're connected to industry, they're connected to industry. So yeah, we think it's great.
Wonderful. Samantha, media studies.
So I definitely recommend media studies to anyone. It's definitely a mix of theoretical and practical. So you've got the mix of the two. For my group, there's not actually many of us. There's only about 9 on my course. So we're quite a small community, but at the same time, that's a real nice thing when you're doing the presentation. If you're don't like doing presentations, it's very nice that you don't have loads of people looking at you and you kind of become like a family. And then the other thing is that we actually don't do any exams. Ours is all based off our coursework.
That's great. Thank you all. We have one more audience question now. I'm hoping, unfortunately, it seems like Jessie's internet might have kicked her off, but let's see if Chris might be able to answer this, but if not, we can always pass it along to some of our academic staff and get back to you. But do you sit an exam for the National Council for the Training of Journalists diploma? And how many exams would a first-year student expect to take?
So yes, the answer to that question. There's actually a few exams you'll probably sit for the NCTJ, but that's spread across the 3 years, 4-year degree, whichever you decide. So in first year, there's only one kind of compulsory NCTJ exam, which is kind of related to politics and how that relates to journalists. And then there's also kind of, it's your choice whether you can do some exams as well. But also with the NCTJ, which is good, there's quite a lot of flexibility. So you don't have to do every exam they offer, but you can do the ones that kind of are tailored to what you'd perhaps want to do in the future, like in the industry. So I'm just thinking, for example, there's a broadcast exam. So if you really wanted to be on TV, you could potentially do that if you'd want. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And of course, if you have any more questions, you can always get in touch with any of us. We'll, there's the contact information there, the social media information. We'd be more than happy to answer the sort of more specific questions that you might have as well, or anything that comes up for you. So with that, I think I will wrap up. Thank you so much to Chris, Phillip, Alana, Neil, Trinity, Nancy, Stephen, Samantha, and Jesse for answering the questions. Thank you all for coming. We really hope to see you in the autumn. But seriously, don't hesitate to get in touch. We'd be more than happy to speak with you as you're sort of making your final decisions right now.